Not at her desk.
They do it in manual.
We're not, we're second.
Oh,
And that's all the agenda.
yeah, no.
There's some intelligence. Hey, Nadine.
Yes.
Aaron Cruiser is not in the room yet, so we might flip those.
Okay. That works.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our rooms, I don't get to.
And I apologize, I don't have the script memorized.
Oh, you're gonna, yeah.
You're good. I guess I would just say hello to everyone.
Yeah, this you guys are.
It's a little very. Yeah, same.
And then I shall.
Well, we weren't first on the agenda, but we'll look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I am. Thanks.
Right. I'm not saying my civic. There's the guy.
Go ahead.
I'd like to call the committee meeting to order. The next meeting date would be in January. Maybe typically to the maybe it's Wednesday, next month. Next we'll have to swear in. I guess we'll just go.
Yeah, just start reading.
Do you want to swear in the staff?
Sure, I mean, I don't, sorry.
So yeah, it's swear in staff and then we'll do the roll call.
Yeah, great, super.
Yeah. So yeah, Nadine Dash, and it's always should vote is nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just be giving you advice. I won't be giving you stuff if you need it.
And then we'll do the roll call. Wonderful thing. Commissioner Vanderheiden, Commissioner McCormick, Commissioner Frey,
Here.
Commissioner Ho. Yes, here. Commissioner Brown,
Here.
and then Shelby Toon and Gregory Corbin will not be joining us today. All right, and then we'll move on to the approval of minutes from July 17th.
Did everybody get a chance to review this? Sure. Do we have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve. Second.
So Mary, motion second by Lisa.
All those in favor? Okay, did you commence?
Perfect. Great. So that leaves us, we don't have any applications, obviously, so we're just here to hear updates. So first off, we're gonna talk about the public art plan, and that's gonna be Aaron Prosser and Mark Phillips. So if you guys would.
And we're actually gonna swing.
Yes, okay, we're actually gonna talk about reimagining Columbus first, and that'll be, you said Aaron Prosser, actually, yes, and Amanda Grillich, so.
No.
There's,
Blue and gold. Figure it out. Blue and golden is the
Blue and
color. Blue and golden is the dream team, if you will. Uh-oh.
Introduce yourselves and you swear or promise to tell the truth, so just truth.
Oh, sure.
Yes, my name is Amanda Golden. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I'm Erin Blue. I'm a city employee. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Amanda. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a while.
Mhm.
When we last gave an update to this body, said we would come back and give you updates quarterly on our progress. And then things happened. So we haven't been as timely as we'd like with the updates, but here we are. It's really good timing actually with regard to where we are in the project. We've completed kind of our first year of activities. And so we can go to the next slide, Nadine. So just as a reminder, the timeline for the 2 years of the project. In the first year, did a lot of work on gathering historical content, and also did our community engagement series, the first round of community engagement. And then also we developed an online learning series. We're still working on the final pieces of that. So that was all year one. In year two, we'll be working the design team as part of our project. We'll be developing the design concepts that are inspired by the community engagement that took place. We'll engaging with city leadership on the outcomes of that engagement, as well as the design concepts. We'll also be receiving, and I know you'll be interested in the City Hall campus public art plan. This is separate from the broader city-wide initiative the GCAC is working on. And then we'll be going back to the community to engage around the concepts once we have kind of final concepts to bring to the community. So that's year two. So some of the historic content that we have, and our website is reimaginingcolumbus.com. So you can see a lot of this information on our website. That's where most of our content lives. We have an interactive walking tour of downtown, and we talk about kind of the way downtown was determined and developed to be kind of a civic space, and the buildings and all of that was very purposeful. So we have Nancy Recchi, who's a local historian, doing a tour with our project team, giving some information there. We have another page is a great overlay of local, state, and national history, and a timeline of things that happened from the original inhabitants of this area that we call Central Ohio to where we are today, as well as where that fits in with kind of national events as well. We also have, I find it really compelling, a map of the tribal nation locations around on this continent before colonization and after where they are today. So there are a lot of things like that. Again, we also included history of redlining, other things that we find to be relevant to the work that we're doing. Go to the next slide. We also have worked on some other historic content. This was an academic paper. There's a white paper on the activities of Christopher Columbus the man, and then also a case study document where we get a lot of questions about what other cities are doing with their statues. And so we thought it would be great to kind of make that a case study document. So those will be released early 2025. You can see here the list of 13 cities that Amanda and her team worked on finding out kind of the origin of those statues, like who funded the creation of those statues, who owns the statues, what happened to them in 2020, and where are they today. So kind of providing some context of Columbus, Ohio story, in addition to other cities around the nation. So the learning series that we did, initially we talked about how we really wanted to have in-depth conversations, and we wanted to bring a lot of information to the public, and we realized that it was going to be really hard to do that kind of one-off in-person events. So we created a really robust series of online videos, and we've already worked with Columbus Museum of Art to screen some of those so that we can come together in person together to screen them and have conversation afterwards. We'll be doing that again, more of that in 2025. So it's not just a sit at home and watch a dozen videos by yourself. But here's a list of the different topics that we've worked on. This first grouping is kind of historical content or context, and also some of the live events that we held. Then we have another slide that has some of the local storytellers. So we kind of separated them on our website between experts that we've engaged to tell historical accounts and growth of the city, things like that. And then we also have where we have local community members who are telling their personal stories and how that is evolving or inspiring the work that we're doing with this project. So the engagement series that we held completed in late summer, actually. Kimberly Braswell, not Kimberly Danielle, was our moderator for most of the community conversations that we had, the World Cafe event, Story Lab, and the storyboarding and focus groups. She led us all in conversation with each other on stories of personal, family, history, and culture, the way that we experience things today in our community. And those are really meaningful. And then the Story Lab event was actually really great, where we had 6 people telling their stories to an audience. So they had conversation with each other with the variety of backgrounds. And then we had conversation with the audience as well. And one of my favorite questions that was asked was, how do you think your grandmother's grandmother hopes you're experiencing your culture today? And so that's one of the ones that really stuck. I mean, there are a lot of things that really stick out, but just as an example of the kinds of conversations that we've been having with this event, and this is the point of the series for us. This is the reason the gift of the funding from Mellon is to be able to take time in this way and engage with the community through really intentional conversations. We also did some family workshops and walks to local Indigenous mound sites, and also to the leather lip statue that's in Dublin. That was with a local Indigenous community member to have conversation around those sites as well. So they wanted to make sure there was a variety of ways that people could engage with this project and the content. And we're really proud of the series that we built.
Talk a little bit about the focus groups and why we.
Oh, yeah, no, please go. You should do that.
Oh, sure. One of the other things that we did that I thought was really kind of interesting in how we built the engagement process was to start big and then get small. And so everyone was invited to the larger conversations, but then as we began to have more deeper conversations around the statue itself, what it means to each culture individually, and if there were symbols that represented the cultures that we invited, what would those be if they were to be turned around and put back into the built environment? So we had a focus group with college students, we had a focus group with Black Americans, we had a focus group with Italian Americans, we had a focus group with Indigenous
Latino Americans
and Latinos. We identified different hosts to host those events. So they were hosted in places that those communities were comfortable in. And then we also appeared at the Navajo Nation's Economic Development Summit. And we asked the same questions, but in poster form. So people were able to answer the questions for us, but we're answering it with more sticky notes rather than in a focus group and beside each other. But that was a really great way to get a lot of engagement from a very specific group of people. So again, we started big, asking big questions that applied to everybody, and still asked the same questions in every single focus group. But because they were divided by identity or affinity, we felt that people were more comfortable expressing ideas and with people that are like them, right?
And again, the important thing was that the same, was it 5 or 6 questions were asked in every group. And then once those conversations took place, we actually put those same questions on our website. So now that's opened up to the public. And it's kind of the first time we've asked direct questions to the community about their thoughts about the statue or feelings of involvement that they could kind of write down. So there's now an online way to kind of engage with those questions as well. And we promoted that through our newsletters and other things. We'll continue to do more of that as well.
Great. Here's some photos.
And there's some pretty pictures and people and great conversations, and you know, we work in the arts. We got to have pretty pictures. Okay, that's good. Passing on to you.
Yeah. Okay. So as you can tell, we had a ton of community conversations, and all of that has to come together to create data points for what the deliverable of the grant actually is, right? And just a reminder, the deliverable of the grant is some concepts for what the recontextualization of the statue looks like. And so the designers have to have some content to react to. So our team gathered in September. The entire team came together in Columbus at the beginning of September, and then again in DC. And they developed a design principle utilizing all of the ideas that they heard from the community. What we found, and I think we all knew this going into this process, but the themes that emerged were actually the same no matter who you asked. The vessel in which that was delivered was just what was different, right? And so I know that you can read them, but I'm going to read them because this is going into the record. So the experience of whatever the site is, the recontextualization of this statue, will be a design that centers humans' relationship with Mother Earth and allows people to literally connect to her in a myriad of forms. It orients people along a continuum of time from generations long past to those in distant future. It moves and reflects and harmonizes and balances along 4 axes associated with time, cardinal directions, elements, and the seasons. It tells true stories and honors the common threads of struggle, resilience, and transformation that have occurred among all people, and evokes feelings of being in an ancestral home. The things that we kept hearing from the community are that What's important to us is family, food, friendship, and an overwhelming sense of a desire for belonging. And so when we began to talk about those themes, these were the themes that got delivered to the designers. And I know Eliza, as an architect, can resonate with having kind of a thing that continues to ground your design process. And so that's really what we were seeking to do, and creating a through line of the community voice, the community engagement to the design process. So our designers have been meeting weekly since the month of August. And I think, Erin, you actually talk about going to DC, but I'll just mention it a little bit really quickly here.
That's fine.
One of the things that we wanted to do with our designers and the design team was to have a collective experience in a place that talks about and dissects difficult history. We all know that when we come together in a group setting, if we haven't had the experience that someone else is talking about, like, you know, you could sit across from somebody and they would say, I went to Germany and experienced the Auschwitz Memorial. If you didn't experience that, all you can do is hear what they say and then say, like, yes, I can understand why that was moving or why that experience did X, Y, and Z. But we felt it was really important for everyone to have an experience that was collective together so that they could all have a shared experience to reflect to and talk about as they begin to think about recontextualizing this difficult topic. And so the design team planned a trip to DC where we visited the Museum of the American Indian. We had someone from the Smithsonian take us around and talk about the design of the building and how the galleries all interact with one another. Marty Chatsworth, who sat on the steering committee in 2020, her brother is actually a major part of that museum and is one of the curators there, which was really cool connection to Central Ohio. And then in the afternoon, we went to the Museum of African American Culture and History, and we did not have a docent there, but that museum is very different. If any of you have been there, you don't need a docent because the building itself guides you through an experience. It forces you to go down and go through that story. And it was very moving for everybody who was there. On the second day in DC, we had a design charrette where we talked about the emotions that we all experienced together collectively in those spaces, and then talked about how those experiences then translate into design experiences. And that really is what kind of catalyzed our conversation around place and what the built environment can do to bring these themes together and recontextualize the statue as well. Yep. One of the other things that we are doing, as you know, as part of the deliverable is a City Hall public art plan. And that is happening alongside the recontextualization of the statue. As part of the grant, our mandate was to think about how City Hall campus could hold a collection that utilized what we heard in the community conversations as part of this process in developing that collection for City Hall's campus. So these design principles have been informative to this vision that is also here today. This is a draft vision, but we do believe that this is kind of how the public art plan will be informed. So Columbus City Hall will be a public space foregrounded in our shared values and sensibilities. Through expansive, inclusive public art and placemaking experiences, City Hall's campus will be a site that fosters belonging, uplifts cultural histories, and centers individual experiences. It's through that vision that our team will begin to dissect that vision and make specific recommendations around how public art can do those things. I think it's important, again, just to say, to foster belonging, uplift all the cultural histories that we have in our community, and centers the individual experience. So that is what we are seeking to do with the collection that we are going to be recommending. We have a number of types of public art that we're exploring that will accomplish each of those themes. And I hope that we'll be back probably in the first quarter to present that to you all.
Great. One of the things that's also really, I don't know, it almost feels a little bit magical. There are so many things that are happening within our community and within our region that have great alignment with the work that we're doing. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of those things as a part of this update for awareness. So of course, the Columbus Public Art Plan, the work that GCAC is doing on the role of public art in our city citywide is really great timing as we work on a public art plan for City Hall campus. Also the Capitol line and what that may be doing to transform downtown. And of course, it will be really close to City Hall. But also at the Columbus Museum of Art, they have a project called Indigeneity, where they are working with Indigenous artists and they are connecting to the origin of the pieces in their collection and doing the kind of the work that museums across the nation are doing to ensure that we kind of have an appropriate collection, if you will. Also the Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks that are in Newark and also in, well, I think Chillicothe, Oregonia, lots of places I don't know because I'm not from Ohio originally, but this is the first UNESCO heritage site designated in the state of Ohio, and it just happened in the fall of last year. So we've been connecting with Ohio History Connection and have been able to connect with folks around the work that's happening in that area as well. Also, Great Council State Park is a new state park that just opened west of Columbus. And Governor DeWine and others had a lot to do with making that happen and working with the Shawnee tribe. They're located in Oklahoma, but having them come and be a part of the designation of that, the creation of that space. And also, if you haven't heard of it, it's a really beautiful podcast that is done on WYSO in Yellow Springs. It's called the Ohio Country Podcast. And that, again, is the story of the removal of Indigenous people from this area. It's about 12 episodes or whatever you call them. Not much of a podcast listener. Episodes is right. Okay, good. Usually I say, dress rehearsals for sports things, whatever. So there's a lot going on in this area that we feel there's a lot of connective tissue that we can create. And part of this is, how does this work live on after this 2-year project concludes? And we feel like there's a lot of opportunity to have a greater impact once the project is over. One of the other things that in line with that is just to bring in the context of this work and where it's happening around the country as well. So the Mellon Foundation, also they just received the National Humanities Award from President Biden for their work in uplifting stories. So we're happy to be a part of that, of the Mellon family as well. It's a great time to be doing this work. These are the other cities that also received grants from the Monuments Project. And I believe I mentioned this in the last time we had this conversation, but I'll just to reiterate, it was initially a $250 million initiative, and they have doubled that to $500 million. And when I spoke to my contact at Mellon and asked why they made the decision to increase so much, they said so many of the projects that our grantees are working on are in the very early stages. And we wanted to ensure that there's money to help bring visions to life as well. So we're very hopeful that we can be one of those as well. But one more thing, go back, something else just about the type of work that we're seeing as we travel around the country and as we're looking at other communities. There are a lot of different places that are alongside kind of the traditional telling of history. They're finding a way to bring a more inclusive lens to that. And a couple of these examples on the left, you see this is actually a statue of Thomas Jefferson, and this is at the African American History and Culture Museum. So, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, but he has a pretty bad track record himself. And so the boxes that are behind him are have the names of all of the enslaved from Monticello. So, we're not discounting the achievements that are part of our traditional telling of history, but there is more to the story. And so there is a way to be able to do that as well. To the right, you'll see this is called Declaration House. This is in Philadelphia. It's where the Declaration was drafted. You see eyes on the windows. This is a temporary installation by artist Sonia Clark, and they're actually videos, so they're blinking. Sorry, I'm not that high tech. They're blinking eyes, but they're the descendants of the enslaved from Monticello. And so again, we're still able to take the traditional telling of history, but there is a way to be more inclusive and make sure that the pieces that have been left out in the past are no longer omitted. So a lot of people have asked us in this work, tell us another example just like ours. Well, there's not one, right? There are a lot of Christopher Columbus statues. In fact, Christopher Columbus is the third most represented figure in monuments in the country, with 149 statues, as opposed to, let's see, the first was Washington, the second is Lincoln, the third is Columbus, and the fourth is Martin Luther King, with half as many statues as Columbus statues. So this project is unique to us, not only because it's Christopher Columbus and not some of the other stories that we've been hearing about, but also because we're the 14th largest city in the country, and we have the largest statue outside of other than Puerto Rico, the largest statue in the country of Christopher Columbus. So there's a lot of work for us to do. Okay. And then just kind of to wrap up, this is kind of our rough outline of what is coming up. November obviously happened, which is great. Yay, I can check it off as complete. So I've been, in addition to coming to you today, we've been talking with leadership within the city to give updates on this work. We also have, I do have it down here. Good, I'm glad I added. We have an event coming up on January 9th where we'll present this same information to the public so that we can, again, stay really transparent with what we heard from these conversations and how that turns into design and inspiration for the design work that's to come. So January 9th, that'll be at the Columbus Museum of Art. We'll have a panel with myself and Amanda, as well as Kim and Shelley Corbin, who were facilitators of our engagement. We'll do kind of a conversation with the four of us, and then we'll open that up to Q&A. So then in the winter, again, we'll work towards the public review of those concepts, but also the public art plan. That's some language that Amanda had me write down that I don't know what it means. But also, again, with regard to the learning series, we want to make sure that the work that we're doing is getting seen by people. So we'll have more opportunity to screen those in other venues and have conversations around them. In the spring, we expect to be coming back to the public with the engagement series, second round of engagement around the design concepts. And we're hoping also to develop a public art kind of lecture series where we can bring public artists from around the country in to have conversations around difficult topics, and the work of public art could be, again, a great synergy with public art plan and other initiatives happening in the city. And then our timeline is that by the end of the summer, we have the deliverables to the mayor's office, which is what the grant calls for. And again, just some of the long-term benefits of this project is this continued commitment to inclusive storytelling and to identify new ways to engage with a community that feels genuine and is less transactional. To create new public art for City Hall campus, we do have a commitment from the mayor's office to, once we have a new plan for the City Hall campus, we can do the work, begin the work on making new work to be on the campus. To recognize and connect with Indigenous initiatives that are happening locally and statewide. And then also Columbus, Ohio kind of joins the national stage with regard to these conversations about representation and inclusion in our built environment and commemorative spaces. And scene. So any questions, comments, thoughts, applause? Whatever. We'll take that. We'll take it. Yes.
Where are we? We represent the community.
Right.
It'd be great to be a part of what that is. And although it does not outline, it's supposed to be doing bylaws that I've written, but it would be show if members of this committee would be able to be a part of that. So
Oh, sure.
We have a stake in it, and there's some interest, if you will.
Right. So you should be receiving the emails. Do you receive those? Okay, so you're getting the invitations to all the public events as we are. I'm happy to kind of more directly make sure I kind of send reminders of upcoming events to you all to make sure you're aware of them, as I know your inbox probably looks like mine. So I'm happy to kind of be more pointed with those reminders, especially as with the next event coming up in January. If there are other ways that you would like to engage, please let us know.
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
One of the other things too is that we're going to be coming to you with the City Hall Public Art Plan. It's our hope that when we bring that to you, you understand it's in draft form and it's a dialogue. So we want your feedback. We want you to say like, this is great. Why did you do this instead of this? And we are going to be prepared to say, well, the community said this, which is a direct result of why we're recommending this thing at this location. So that'll be coming to you all. And we want that to be, I don't want to say a workshop because I know it can't technically be a workshop, but we want you to provide a lot of feedback on that for us, because ultimately you're recommending that and then you'll be voting on the artists who are being selected. So
Right. We're not intending to bring you a finished product.
No.
Right. But it is something that will have had a lot of thought put into it so that we can have thoughtful conversation around it.
So
Yeah.
in terms of sequencing, you mentioned that there is a city hall public arts plan,
Mhm.
and there's also the call for maybe like an RFP, the call for all the competition, right, in the public arts competition. So will they both happen in the winter of 2025, or like what's the sequence?
We don't have when that process will occur. The plan will be done in the first quarter. I think probably we'll be bringing the plan with the concepts. It's our vision that this is a beautiful document that you can pull sections out of. So there'll be a document about, or a section, chapter, book about engagement. There'll be a book about the concepts. There'll be a book about the public art plan. It's our desire that all of that is one document that then gets delivered to the mayor himself. And then I'm hoping that that's when we'll get feedback from, from those folks too. But I don't think that the calls will be released in the first quarter. Because yeah, as you know, there's a whole process after that plan is done. It's like, okay, here's the vision, but now we're gonna decide how much money is gonna go into each piece of this and when the money will be allocated in what year. Are we gonna do a large call as a team for artists? Are we gonna do, if there are 5 pieces, are we gonna do 5 calls? Is it gonna be RFQ? There's all those conversations that I think we haven't had that I hope that you guys will participate in kind of workshopping with us to think through.
There's also a capital budgeting cycle that's a year long, so we'll have to intersect with that.
Yeah, so while the mayor pledged support for new art, that isn't necessarily a line item we can start spending in January, right? So, but that's why, as it's a part of this work, we'll be able to have that conversation and answer those questions about, what's the right way to launch that initiative. And I think it will also probably, it will align or be parallel to whatever's happening with the citywide public art initiative, right? We've talked with GCAC about not wanting people to get confused, the 2 initiatives, right? So we want to make sure that it's really clear what is what. And so we want to make sure we're working with GCAC as a partner too, to make sure the timing is right for both of those initiatives to be successful.
Is there a final kind of destination for this plan? And is there someone, at the level of the city who will continue to kind of shepherd those? I'm thinking about the future, obviously, like let's say 5 years from now. What that might look like.
I think there are a lot of conversations happening at the city level. I don't know what I'm too close to or not, but students only. There are a lot of conversations within the city about how to support public art. And so I think that will be a part of that conversation. So as we determine the right level of support and the right organizations and the right ways to support the citywide initiative, this will be a part of that conversation as well. So I do think that there will need to be a plan. Again, we're not going to be starting it in January. So, but that is a question. It will need to be supported in some way by staff for sure. Great.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excited to see it.
If you have not, please visit reimaginingcolumbus.com. Watch our videos, explore our content. It is really, really, really good. We've gotten a lot of speakers. A lot of people have committed, their background and their life's work to contributing to this project, and the content is great. So please watch it and share it with your friends. We have like 7 views on some of the videos, so share it with friends. Yes.
That's right. Just put it on repeat. That'll be good enough.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Now going here, public art.
Right.
And that'll be, Erin, draw your mark. We are ready for the public art.
Are you going
Here for Morris Point.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for having us today. My name is Erin Prosser. I'm a deputy director in the Department of Development. A lot of stuff has gone on for us, and
Have to swear in.
do we swear in? Okay, can't hurt, right?
I think chair swears.
Sure, do you swear and tell the truth, the whole truth?
I do.
I do.
They think.
Mark Drabilis, Planning Division Administrator. Good to see you all.
So we're excited to come and kind of what I think is really opening the dialogue with you guys on the public art plan and kind of the work that we've been doing and the committee's been doing, but then also kind of how we're moving forward into 25. In 24, as you probably are well aware, Ms. Fenning was a deputy director in our department and was really passionate about this work and made it something that she was a really big part of her work. And she's very talented and very lovely, and so she got stolen from us. And she is now working directly with the mayor, which is good for all of us, but created kind of a little bit of a hiccup in terms of how we were moving forward with that. So I want to apologize for that first. It is now something that I've taken the helm to help shepherd through in the role with the development department and alongside with the planning division. And I know that the last time that this plan was talked about with you guys was May, and we had a presentation from GCAC. We did not see that material before it came to you. So since that meeting, we've spent some time kind of understanding from GCAC where those recommendations came from, kind of how we were going to address them. We've had a lot of internal conversations with city attorney's office and certainly with staff here. It is not anyone's intention to remove the approval authority from the Art Commission on public art projects. So that authority will remain with this commission, with the city in the way that it is today. We understand that there's some reasoning why they kind of brought that recommendation to you. But for the way that we want to approach this conversation and the importance of having a community represented body that's weighing in on these pieces in a public forum in the way that the city's design is really meaningful and important to us. So as we kind of understood kind of then what is the GCAC's proposal around the art in public places, we had last week, right? We were all together for the steering committee meeting and the opportunity for them to kind of share. And really where we are is they're going to focus really heavily on that kind of art and public places committee. How will that facilitate kind of being a place for artists to enter the conversation? How do we provide supports through that organization with approvals for anything that's on city property remaining with this body? So how do those two things interface? And then how do we continue the conversation with you about moving and kind of moving this body forward and understanding the better ways we can be staffing you, the better ways we can be working with you, the ways that we may want to update some of the bylaws and some of the things that work that we can do together over 2025. So that's the nutshell of kind of how we get to today. We did have the steering committee last week, and I think they shared with us some of those outcomes. It appears that in 2025, they'll be kind of moving that planning forward. But I think we would be working with you guys kind of in a separate track that would be focused on how best to design this commission and be part of the work that you guys do. What did I leave out, Mr. Drabilis?
I don't think you left much out at all, Aaron. And I mean, I appreciate it and credit to Aaron, who was, jumped into this role very quickly, as she said, as we lost Jennifer. And as you all experienced, we've gone through staffing changes ourselves and Sophie's at home with her baby now. Nadine has jumped in. Lewis has been given other direction in the division, the department. So Aaron has really been, jumped in and helped to create, provide the leadership that was needed in the last few months, really in particular, because we're obviously through the public art plan envisioning some new ways of doing business. But it's created some, need for conversation and organization internally. So, I mean, Aaron jumped right in when it was, interesting. And I think we've now formed our direction and have our clarity. And one key point, I think, as you said, is and this is again, working with Josh and others, is that the Art Commission will remain as an entity that will maintain all of your approval authority that you have today. And so that was maybe a simple thing, but not simple and really important for us. What I'll add, and I just have a really relatively simple handout, is it's also, I've done this almost for my own sanity, is just to state, what do we do? What is the Columbus public art program, look like? And what we do now, what we envision continuing to do. And so you all know this, but just to restate it, And this has been input that we provided in the public art plan process, that, new public art, one thing that we envision and welcome is the Art in Public Places program being a generator of a new public art in the city. I think there was really, in my sort of novice observation over the last 5 years, folks would look to the Art Commission as a body that would be generating new public art as opposed to a review body. And it was like, well, they're a commission. They're mayoral appointed commissioners that review new and, move public art and so forth. So the AIPP obviously has a big role to play. And we're working on creating clarity on how we would relate to them and support them, what they would do, what we would do. We'll continue obviously to staff the Art Commission, and credit to Louis Taba, who really, has hustled a lot over the last few years and, redoing processes, rethinking things, organizing materials. And I'd like to think we're really just getting started there. There's more of that work that needs to continue. Similarly with public art maintenance, we've had a maintenance program for years, but credit again to Louis, Morgan Graff, Nadine has gotten involved, and Sophie was heavily involved in really creating, for the first time that we know in cities' history, of having a comprehensive database of what we own, what's where, what the maintenance are required. We just stumbled into the fact that Morgan Graff has professional expertise in materials and maintenance directly relevant. She staffs one of our preservation commissions. We've saddled her expertise and given her direction, and she's now going to be responsible for administering that contract. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit here later. And as I mentioned, then we have a database. We ended up, we had an outside vendor that made that database public facing, but since we've taken it over and created our story map, I've provided the link there. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. Sophie Vogel created it. We think it's really visually appealing, and it provides a portal to anybody to see everything we own and background information on it. We could do more with that, and we anticipate making that a more functional piece in years to come. And really, I've been touching on process improvements. We're trying to bring process improvements to everything that we do. And we've had a couple meetings. We need to restart them with Sophie going on family leave. As we're taking a little bit of a breather, but we're reviewing bylaws, the actual code, gift policy, again, processes. We would love to be bringing and working with you on the development of guidelines that would be used to review future pieces. We feel there's a void there. Other process improvements we'll continue to work on. So this has kind of all sort of happened during the public art plan process. And I think it's kind of helping us to, clarify what we're going to do and what GCAC will do. And part of it will be the partnership.
The only thing I'll add, prior to coming into the city, which I've been here about 3.5 years now, I served for 7 or 8 years on the Historic Resources Commission. And we had this really good relationship with landmarks. And I really see that being kind of an example of the way that the Art Commission will interface with the Art in Public Places, that there's sort of that relationship of the external entity, but then the commission providing its role as well. And I think it's a nice complement in these really important issues to have both of those pieces. But how those two kind of click together, I think, is the conversation that we'll be interested in having with all of you.
I guess if I can start some questions then, related to that, I know there's been some challenges just with meeting format currently, for example, for these meetings. I'm curious how you see that might expand if we are going to be having a more fluid relationship with the AIPP, for example, because right now we can only meet in this format, which is really clunky. And I think there's got to be some huge, kind of updating and rethinking to do. If we want to be functional and communicative with that. I don't know what the possibilities are.
Looking good.
Yeah, it sounds like that guy. Right.
My microphone's the culprit.
And I will say, and I'm not, I'm saying that to any one of you specifically, it's been 7 months, right, since we've had this update. So I'm a little worried, like, is it going to be 2 years, 3 years before we figure that out? I'm really curious about timeline And just kind of the expedience in which we can figure this out and again, modernizing the format if possible, so that there is a way for all of us to be in conversation and not just one or two of us.
So I will say a couple of things. One is that the legal constraints are found under the Ohio Revised Code and the City Code. This is a public body, so you do have certain requirements that you have to follow when you're meeting and discussing cases and business of the commission. So the main function of the Art Commission is to hear cases and approve applications for art, city right-of-way, public property. You all understand that role. That sort of has to happen in this format. However, and I'll let Mark talk to this point as well, there are other commissions within the city who frequently have business meetings that are a little bit more free-flowing, and there's not necessarily an item to vote on at the meeting on the agenda. And I think this is something we've discussed internally as well as being a possibility to schedule perhaps regular business meetings that it can be a little more informal. Like tonight, we don't have any cases on the agenda. So as long as you notice a meeting and members of the public are able to attend, we can have any sort of discussion in public, and it might feel a little less stilted or clunky. And that may be something to seriously consider for next year's, to having a regular business meeting for updates on your schedule, even if you don't have anything really to vote on.
Let's also talk about the business meeting, if that helps. So, I do help staff UITRB and GBC, so we do have business meetings, usually a week or two before the official hearing. And the point of them is for the board members to go over the applications and ask for any other materials that they would need. We don't necessarily invite the public, but they are able to be there, and they don't speak. They're just there to hear for their application what they would be. So like we was saying, you guys could schedule that a few weeks before the actual hearing if we were scheduled for one, and it would still be recorded. It would not be live streamed, so you're still on the record and you're able to kind of discuss more so between yourselves. So.
We did those for the Historic Resources Commission, and it was nice, especially when we wanted to talk through, I know the wood windows issue, the things that were a little more complex.
Sort of.
That we wanted to kind of have that back and forth that wasn't quite so formal, where we were going to make a decision about changing something, or I think having the commitment to continue the conversation around not just updates to you guys, but the public art plan as well. Those could be really good formats to have some of those more kind of back and forth, get feedback and input conversations.
I was not at the steering committee meeting, but when is the plan going to be presented?
I don't think we saw a timeline that was firm. We understand they're continuing to do some of their work around the Art and Public Places Committee. I think Lord is still working on the actual planning document. We expect to see it in draft form. We're gonna we'll have something that we all have to react to in January. Yeah, so we'll have something. I haven't seen anything yet from GCAC. But we anticipate it not to have a big amount of direction around the city body in particular, that they're really gonna focus on GCAC and kind of leave that conversation out of it for the moment.
And that's to a degree why I've talked to you, Aaron, about this, that we've sort of just started to write down, it's like, what do we do? And you know, it's aside from the public art plan, but I guess that's one reason we were spurred to do that, is like, this is our business here. And so, and we expect that this would be reflected in a public art plan to the degree it's relevant, but if it's not, it's okay. It's like, this is our business, right?
So will people, how will people from the community know to come to the commission for approval? Where is that information going to be in the plan?
So
Public art plan?
I can't speak to whether or not the steps will be in, but the commitment to kind of liaison between the Art and Public Places Committee and then this commission, so that we would like everyone to participate. If they're on city property, they have to come to you guys, but we would like them to participate on both sides of that as they, for support and direction. And I think what the Art and Public Places Committee will bring, but I don't know that it will lay out the specifics of how it
I'm
interacts.
just afraid there's going to be confusion among artists
And we've heard that from them as well. I can go back with GCAC and find out exactly what they expect to kind of identify in the planning document, so that if an artist goes to that planning document, it would be nice if there was some clarity there.
Absolutely.
So I can take that back with GCAC.
Yeah.
And I want to second that, I think as you launch new initiatives, right, there's always this kind of initial phase where you might find that there are gaps, right, between what you thought was going to be and what really is, and, where you might need to tweak and make changes. I just hope that from the commission point of view, from the city's point of view, we can be as flexible and as cooperative as we can be to, kind of help make that all work for you. I think you identified a huge issue, Mary, and I think that is the case. And for example, recently, I understand that the city also has shifted its portal that, that it's not the same way artists that want to apply for projects, it's much tougher to find, and you have to navigate all these channels. And so I think there are some obstacles that, certainly from my point of view, I wish we could eliminate those or make those clearer, or, have some kind of transparency or communication around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the work yeah.
So because I recently used the portal, it's just in the line of my work, we are trying to upload our applications, to the university in that district, before. It's kind of same process.
It's the same, yeah.
So, and then I couldn't find a lot of information. So what I ended up doing, I used to reach out to the staff, to understand the report, ask her directly what exactly are the requirements and documents and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that the portal actually, maybe I'm just not following, all the instructions on the website just yet, but it's just, I'm not getting the help that, so I just need to, go to, the city staff to ask me.
And we're happy at any point. I mean, apologies now and forever for your entry into any city system, including the portal. It's not always easy, but frankly, it was an important step for the planning division, because what it does is it creates a consistent process for all users. It ensures that we're getting the necessary material. We never want to bring applications to the commission that aren't complete and that aren't received. And so this creates structure for us. Understood that it could be Byzantine and challenging to use. And at the end of the day, anybody that has a concept, an application that needs assistance should just feel free to reach direct out to the Art Commission staff support. That could be Nadine, it could be Sophie, and we're happy to sit down with anybody, walk them through. There's been cases where we've just literally done the application for somebody. So we will get people where they need to be. At any point you're aware of anybody that is struggling through, or just says, I have no idea where to start, send them to us and we'll make sure it gets done. In particular, people that really need the assistance. Somebody that's coming from a high profile firm and they will be like, hey, you know what, we'll give you the pointers, but you could figure it out. In the development world, if there's a zoning attorney hired, then we lean on them to do that work. But for somebody that needs some basic assistance and they're a homeowner, then we're going to reach out to them and help them get it done. So absolutely.
And one of the other pieces I inherited from Jennifer was the communications. And I think we can look to our communication staff on how we're explaining the portal. What are the requirements?
For sure.
Those are things that we can be additive for folks frequently asked questions.
Absolutely.
Things that may be able to just sort of short circuit when you have, I don't know what this is looking for. I've got myself into a situation where what I've got doesn't match up. So I think we can also do a better job from the communication side with our team of just giving some of that context and information ahead of time, so that you're not entering this portal with kind of, down the deep dark tunnel. So that's something we can commit to as well. And I think be interested in working with all of you on how best to communicate that and to make that more clear.
Short video. Nadine's been part of our short video too. Yes, it could be a short video. We've done some fun ones, so. Yeah.
Statement, one of the persons in this commission has been a demand for what we do. And I know that's not a reflection of the people that sit on the side of the table, but there's been a lot of, well, this is all you do. And from a person who's worked in industry for a long time, long enough the way, it's extremely demanding. So I'm interested in what type of teeth do we need to bear as we are on this committee? What type of responsibility beyond, oh, we just approved this and that's all you really do? Which again is a little bit insulting, more and more, especially when it comes to the work that we do that is not spoken of. The work that we do when we do the research for places and for places, we're living in the community and discussing things and going into these meetings with sometimes hostile individuals, you know, and then being able to walk out of it, you know, with a little scratch, but at least having something to bear from you. So I'm interested in how, when we're updating processes, when we're having the opportunity to develop what this commission can do, I'm interested in being at the table for that. I'm up for whatever responsibility that we can share in developing. I don't think it has to fall completely on Sophie or anything. It does not have to fall upon you all because we're here and we're your experts, if you will. And so it's great that these things are happening, that we get to see some amazing things. But I'm a boots soldier. I'm in the field kind of person. I want to be a part of what this is, especially since administration is my background. So this is something that's in my bailiwick. So I would like to know, or at least be a part of what that looks like moving forward. I don't know the rest of you all, but I am very, very interested in making sure that we are represented in a way that makes sense, as opposed to we come here when we have stuff and then we leave. Because I can't explain that to my constituents any longer.
Okay.
And I want to be in a position where we are sharing the weight, because many hands make labor light.
And I think that perspective will be critical to getting it right, right? And making sure that it's not, that will be the critical piece of shaping it in a way that actually is reflective, and the role that you play, not just your expertise, but that connection to the community. So I think that's what we're excited about for heading into 25, and get to Mark's point, kind of taking that role and really figuring out how to work with you all and get the outcomes that we're all looking for. But it will take some work, and I think, you know, the planning staff has a good track record of kind of dividing and conquering and kind of identifying specific things that could get tackled in a business meeting or some other format that's a little less formal than this one, so we can do some of that work.
I have one question. Is the budget connected to what applications are out there or what repairs need to be done? Is there a budget that maybe we don't necessarily have over?
Is it the maintenance budget or the?
With the maintenance budget, I mean, Bill, there is I think it's, you know, still in the works, but there is budget, and we need to firm up what the amount is, but we have a request in it, and I know it's anticipated in regard to maintenance in particular, that it's going to be significantly expanded relative to what it's been in years past. And we were going to touch on that on the agenda. So as far as the maintenance goes, certainly.
So I have a question. I'm just trying to understand this. So if somebody has a project, an artist has a project and they want to do it on city property, how will they know to come to? I'm sorry to bring this back up again. I'm just in my head, I don't think.
It's almost like we need a
It's like, are there, you know, what if they go to?
Talk about
Capture
that.
skates,
Well,
skates, we then know to send them back over here. I mean, what, now I feel, then that feels like, when we were talking about doing this public art plan, I've been around the commission for, it feels like a long time. I mean, that was something that we dreamed about having, you know, it's like, it's all we ever wanted. And now we don't feel like we're a part of it. It just feels like we are a separate entity from what's happening there. It doesn't help that we have. And I think that might be it too. We haven't gotten together as a group since May. So,
Okay.
so I'm.
Yeah, and I think that's, the intention is to have those two pieces come together, and with the expectation that it's transparent and easy and legible for folks to come in that may or may not have ever interacted with the city, that may not have deep knowledge about how bureaucracies work. How do we streamline that? And I think how we end up working with the AIPP is yet to be determined, and not in a bad way, but I think in a good way. And what we would like to understand is we would really like to work with you all on what that looks like so that we can kind of, as we work with GCAC on how those click together. I think the commitment that we've made is there will be that continued liaison relationship between the two. And again, understanding kind of, they will be, if an artist comes there and they want, they've secured funding under the AIPP, that, and it's on city property, that they would then be engaged with the planning staff. And there would be kind of that cohesive relationship between the two, making it just seamless for an artist so that it's not a cumbersome challenge. We don't want to be another barrier, right? And I think, you know, at the city side, right, we're really good at making barriers. And I think what we've all committed to is we want that to be a much cleaner process, much more straightforward. Even if the back of the house is still a bit messy, the experience on the front end doesn't have to be. And we've done a number of workflows and kind of understanding how those two piece together. And I think that is the work we'd like to do with you all, is how do those, and I think we'd like to understand too, just as they stand up the AIPP, what exactly is it charged with? How will that be shaped? I think that should inform how we then come together with that entity. So that is a very big priority. I don't have a very direct answer for you in the moment, other than this is what we'd like to work with you all on in 25.
And Erin, if I can ask, are you going to be the liaison directly between the city and the AIP, or?
I think at least for the near term. I think the plan, and I think we've had conversations around dedicated staff that would create that relationship. I need to understand what exactly that workload is before I can, you know, go to our friends in HR and make the push for a full-time position. But that's the expectation, is that there's a dedicated person that wakes up every day with that as their charge and their relationship.
From a timeline perspective, what do you all have in mind? You know, when can we expect someone like that to be on board?
I don't know yet. I think that partially is because I don't quite know what the workload would be. So I think as we understand a little more of what the meat of the plan comes out, understand better kind of what your expectations are and kind of where you would like to see a person kind of be in that position, then we can start to understand what that would look like.
Yeah.
And we've got some timing issues around just how it happens to hire at the city that creates another layer. But I know certainly our planning staff is, we are, but our planning staff in particular is energized by this idea as well, and the opportunity to connect it. And really, again, that connective tissue between the two is going to be the critical thing. There are roles for each to play, especially around the legal structures that just come with city bodies. But again, I think back to my time on the HRC and that relationship with landmarks, and the ability to kind of think through what those two pieces look like.
What I'm hearing from the art commission members is that perhaps you would like to have a monthly meeting, even if there's not any applications on the agenda. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Just to have a sense of involvement.
Absolutely.
Raise a point.
6 month weekly meeting. It could be whatever you want to call it. At the beginning of January, you're going to establish a meeting schedule for the year and approve that. That's what happens as a matter of course. But you could simply approve a monthly meeting schedule and say that it's a hearing or business meeting, depending on any applications that are received. That way you have a public forum and you're good under Ohio's Open Meeting Act. And if there are no applications, there's nothing against you coming and just talking about old business, receiving updates from the city, discussing whatever you think is pertinent to the role of the art commission.
Does it still require agenda as
So for,
notification?
yes, so for a business meeting or a regular hearing, we would. So I can work with you guys if you would like to establish a set business meeting date so that you don't have to come for a hearing or application. You can just show up to the business meeting. It's not live streamed. You're still on the record, but it's more so a discussion for you guys.
Which takes maybe like a week.
Exactly. That's usually.
Questions and just go on the agenda.
So my thought would be at the Wednesday, January 15th meeting, we have some time on the agenda. I think you have to elect a chair, right, or something at the beginning of each year. I don't know offhand what your code section says. But as part of that meeting, you could have a discussion about what you envision for the rest of the year. monthly meetings or otherwise. That works for planning, Nadine, you okay with that?
Suggest that, if our relationship with AIPT needs to go hand in hand, then for those meetings, then we should have a representative from the public.
I couldn't stress that more. I think it's absolutely critical, right? So there has to be regular communication, not just one person with another person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the expectation based on the plan is that GCAC will hire a staff person that, maybe even more than one, that would be that tip of the spear in that space. So I think that's a very reasonable expectation. I'm looking forward to working with you guys. I still miss Jennifer, but sometimes she left me some good stuff. And then she's not paying attention. I'm sorry. I just said, I said I was very excited to work with them. I said I miss Jennifer, but she left me some good stuff. And I think just the dialogue, I think I'm excited about the work in 25 and, this is very exciting for the city and for all the work that we can do. So, and always as a fellow former commissioner, it is a big time commitment and it is a lot to put on you guys. So we just always appreciate it.
Where is it?
Yeah, don't remember without asking.
No, it is very impactful. I mean, I wouldn't have left the HRC, but I wasn't allowed to do it as a city employee. Josh said no. I did. I was like, oh, so no, it's very meaningful work. So appreciate it and look forward to working with you guys.
Would it be possible to ask Jamie Goldstein and maybe someone from the Laura team to come and present to us in January, perhaps, just so that
We can always make the ask. I think they're getting a sense better on their timeline. So I will ask the question. And that way, I'll let you guys know if they think, well, we would have more material by February. I'll kind of let you know if that date works for them, but I think that's a reasonable ask as well.
We're done with the art plan. We just have a few things to discuss, nothing crazy, but, so 2024 art maintenance, we did not have too many on the maintenance list because we didn't have to allocate so much budgeting to the appraisal that we did, which we had some of the pieces on there. And so just a few images for you guys to look at. So the deer, all three of them, got a hot wax finish, so they're looking nice. So they're nice and waxy. So they're looking fresh. And then we've got the U.S. Spanish War Memorial, so you can see that sandstone plinth is like broken. So we redid that, you can see that right there, it's falling apart. So we built a new one and set it on there, so got that repair done. And then the monument to Black History, we did documentation and assessment so that we can plan the maintenance and restoration for 2025. So, it is small, but you get it. So that should be on 2025's list. As for the 2025 maintenance plan, we obviously are continuing to do that. We're compiling the list again, it comes down to budgeting, but we're hoping to have many more pieces on 2025. So it's a work in progress.
Get costs for each of those as well.
Yes, that list will include the costs, and that is something that Morgan is working on, and I'll be helping her with that. So as soon as we have a list, we'll share that with you guys. So, and then next we have the Linden War Memorial. So that just got moved. We had the commencement. It was beautiful. It looks great.
Yes.
Yeah, so they did an excellent job putting it back together. Last week they went out and did finishing touches because there were a few things that were kind of off. So here's that commencement. Yeah, it looked good. So that's that. And then lastly, just out of the struggles of the past, that is currently on hold. We are just waiting for clearance from a rec and parks. So nothing new on that. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we have any word on that.
And that's for placement, right?
Mhm.
Like where.
Correct. So, and that leaves us with nothing else.
Like, it's nice to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, likewise. So I'll be working with you guys for a little while before Sophie comes back, so
When is the meeting due yet?
sometime in February.
That's
So.
great.
Right. And thanks Nadine for stepping in. Sure.
This is my first time running in meetings, this is great practice.
Way to go. Way to go. Indeed.
Any other questions?
I'd like to just be record, be out of the struggle of the past. I really would like to be.
I will, of course,
Individuals who are waiting to hear back.
I got you. I will add this to the email list whenever I get any word on that, I will email you and give you any information.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yes.
George, I'll be in there.
Yeah, I'm shocking.
Perfect. You're ready to adjourn?
Make it all.
I'll move.
Works for me.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.